Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tumble Hub and welcome to June's Tumble Tune-Up. My name is Rob. I'm a tumble coach from London, and I've been in the cheer industry for close to, 2026, so around 23 years. And for a lot of the last 10 years, I've spent working primarily as a tumble coach for the Ascension Eagles and for my company Bear Drills, where I travel around and I work with other tumble teams, other cheerleading teams where I'm helping them to develop and progress their tumbles. And, generally speaking, I set up the Tumble Hub, this YouTube channel, and things like the Tumble Tune-Up, where, I want to share what I know, but also then be a little bit more interactive with people and engage with people and, provide what they're asking for. So hopefully, that is what I'm going to be doing with the Tumble Hub going forward. It's been a passion project for a few years, but I've never really had the opportunity to really spend the time to grow this channel. And so that's going to be the plan going forward. In terms of what you can expect from the Tumble Tune-Up, basically, I share a post on my Instagram channel. If you're watching this back, feel free to check out my Instagram channel and subscribe there. And basically, all I do is I put up a comment and I say, what are your headaches? Share your headaches with me. And then I put them down onto a piece of paper and I do a Tumble Tune-Up like this. And I just go through things that you could do to maybe counter those issues and make them less of an issue for you. Okay, so with that all being said, please make sure that you like and subscribe to this video. And if you would like to receive a newsletter, I also have a link for that in the description below. And you can take you directly to my website, and then you can subscribe there. And anything I send out will come directly to you via email. All right. So let's make a start then. The first question I received, or one of the questions I received, was about the fear of going backwards. Now that's all I got. So this could be for back walkovers all the way up to full twisting layouts. I don't really know what I'm working with here, but I'm going to assume that this is probably at the starting point of the cheerleading journey, and we're talking about back walkovers and back handsprings because they are generally where we start. So first of all, let me just say it's natural to feel uneasy or lacking in confidence when going backwards, because it's not a natural thing to do. It's not, our eyes face forward for a reason. And so going backwards isn't really a thing that's on our radar. This is due in part to something called the amygdala, which is in the back of our head here. And it's basically our fight or flight response thing. And ultimately, it's responding to that idea of going backwards by saying we should not be doing that. So you basically, what you've got to do is you've got to kind of train it to be comfortable with that action and with that movement. And so it might also come because you're used to being spotted. So there's two reasons. Yeah, there's one where it's the kind of the natural thing, the biological thing that are part of our biological makeup that makes us not want to go backwards. But it might also be because, your gym's culture might be to spot a lot. So you're not used to doing lots of these things independently. So my advice for that would be really is to move to a more drill-based focus setup, or put more expectation on yourself to try and do things on your own and build yourself up to going backwards. For example, if you're doing a back walkover, you wouldn't just start by trying to go backwards and put your hands on the floor and kick over, because that would be crazy, right? And that's only going to fuel your fear of going backwards. So instead of doing that, you build yourself little bridges to get to that point. And so the first part might be, or your first circuit might be, I don't know, a wedge against the wall, arms by your ears, and you're leaning back and tapping the wall with your hands. So you're getting used to that feeling of going backwards and keeping your head still and keeping your arms pinch your ears, etc. Right? And then what you might do is you might put something lower next. So you might turn a top tumbler on its side and do the same thing, but it means you're going lower and you're tapping and trying to stand back up as well. And then the next step would be 2 mats and 1 mat. So you could do it onto 2 mats, and this time you're going all the way down to a bridge, and then you can go to 1 mat all the way down to a bridge. And then when you want to introduce the idea of doing a back walker, for example, you just do everything from one leg instead. But that way you're building the confidence, but you're also training your brain to be able to do something that your body wouldn't naturally want to do. So that would be my 2 cents on how to approach doing a back or going backwards without, kind of going completely crazy and being really insecure about it. The next one I got was about keeping your feet together when tumbling, right? So, this is kind of like the thing where coaches go wild for it, because it's kind of like, it's like the biggest pet peeve, especially when you're watching back handspring and you've got these kids' legs kind of doing this and then coming back together again because they're not squeezing, right? Now, there's a number of reasons for this. And again, I didn't get a lot of information, so I'm just working on the assumption that it is a back handspring issue, right? But there's a number of reasons why your legs might not be together when you're performing a back handspring. One of them might be that it's just a muscle issue, right? So when you are jumping into your back handspring, the inside part of your legs are not working, you're not squeezing, so you're not going to be able to keep your legs together. This is also going to be because of your bottom as well. So if you're not squeezing your bottom, your legs aren't going to come together either. So you need to be like working on overall body tension when you're doing something like this. And to help, and with cheerleading, we spend so much time working our quads and our glutes because they're our power areas, and we're stunting and all those types of things. But we end up just stretching and overstretching our hamstrings and the inside of our legs when we're doing box splits, and they become quite weak, and they are still part of your energy reserves. They're still part of your power. So if you're not building them up, you're going to be, only 70% of the athlete that you could be. So for things like that, I would recommend using resistant bands and really just kind of work on tightening the inside of your legs so that when you do jump and when you do squeeze, everything just kind of snaps together nice and tight. And then you can have your legs together when you back handspring. So that would be my first thing. Just make sure that you've developed the all muscle groups, not just the glutes and the quads. Make sure you're developing your hamstrings and the inside of muscles as well. Haven't got a clue what they're called though. Then the next part for this might be that your approach is off, right? And so if your approach is off, the rest of your back handspring is going to be affected too, and it's going to be really hard to keep your legs together. So let's say, for argument's sake, you're about to perform a back handspring. You're in clean. You're going to swing on 1, arms to the ears, 2, jumping, and 3, and that'll be your back handspring, right? If you are, there's 2 things you can do here that are going to affect whether you're going to be able to keep your legs together. If you're dropping your chest too much and you're bringing your chest too close towards your knees, when you jump, you're going to buckle, and it's going to be really difficult for you not to look like this almost when you're upside down. So you want to be, whereas opposed you want to be like this. So if you're dropping your chest too much, it means your arms aren't going to be fast. You're going to have to throw your head, and the whole thing's going to be a mess. On the other side, you might lean back too much, which means that when you push off the floor, you end up treating the floor like a trampoline, which is going to be just as useless, right? So you need to make sure you're finding the sweet spot. And when you set, the sweet spot is generally clean, swinging back so that your hips are moving the direction of travel, and your chest should be in line with your knees, right? They shouldn't be over your knees. They shouldn't be too far behind your knees. They should be in line with your knees. And if you're in line with your knees, it means that you're in a good position to perform the jumping part of a back handspring. You'll be able to push into your, push and lengthen your body, pushing through your toes, which will allow you to squeeze your bottom, your glutes, etc., which should give you a tight back handspring shape. So that is something that you could try if you're having issues with getting your legs together in your back handspring. So that's part 2. And the number 3 for this might be that you're doing all of the other stuff quite well, but your legs just aren't coming together because you aren't bringing your toes up when you back handspring. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later as well. But if you leave your feet behind, right, for the most part, our hips are the heaviest part of our bodies, right? So if you jump and then you leave your feet behind, your hips can't pop up into the handstand shape with the rest of your body, right? So that ends up meaning that you, instead of passing through the handstand part of the back handspring, you end up kind of looking a bit crumpled like this. And that means that you've got to try and fake a way over. And generally speaking, that means that your legs are probably going to come apart there as well. So actually, there's quite a lot that goes into how well you can keep your legs together. It's not just a case of, do I just, should I put my feet together? No, there's way more. You need to look at your conditioning. You need to look at your approach, and you need to look at if you are actually lifting your feet as you enter the handstand and the snap of your back handspring. So they would be the 3 things that I will be, suggesting that you point out or that you focus on there, and that should help you with your with the way you keep your legs together in your back handspring. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 was nailing a punch front step out, right? So a little bit of a jump now from sort of level 1, 2 areas to level 4. If you're going to try and attempt a punch front step out, it's really important that your punch front is actually where it needs to be, right? You can't just be like, well, I've landed a punch front, so I'm going to learn how to step out now, because that's just not how it works. There needs to be an element of progression, and there needs to be an element of mastery, not just I can do it, so I'm going to move on. So I would, make sure that you're keeping that in mind first. But then when it comes to the skill itself, right? You don't want to be, so this is for a punch front. We're not talking about the step out just yet. For a punch front, you don't want to be striking the floor with a body that's kind of, bent up, because all you're going to do there is you're going to kind of tuck into the floor. So when you strike the floor and you're punching the floor, you want your body to be as long as possible, arms up by the ears, driving all of your weight through the springs, squeezing your bottom so that your body is nice and tight, and you can get maximum bounce back from the springs. If you're striking the floor and you're punching, your legs are bent and you're hunched over, the only thing you can do is rotate onto the floor. It's going to under rotate, and you might even land on your back. You want to create as much opportunity for yourself to be able to over rotate, and that only happens with long body, arms, eyes striking forward, not looking at the ground. You're welcome to look at the ground while you're running, but then when you get to your punch spot, head should come up. All right, and that's where you should be. And then, so once you've done that and you're starting to get ready for a punch front step out, you want to challenge yourself a little bit first. You don't just want to jump into, okay, now it's time for my punch front step out. So you need to start challenging yourself, and you can do that by stacking mats. If you're landing on, 2, maybe even 3 mats off the floor, which would be probably about, the mats are about 20 centimeters thick. So we're talking maybe 40 or 60 centimeters off the floor. If you're landing that high on your punch front, then you're probably ready to start training for a punch front step out. But what does that mean, right? There's many ways you can do it. But for me, I think the most trusted way I've done it, or the way that I've seen the most success, is to have athletes do over rotation drills. So that might mean that an athlete will run up a wedge, punch onto a springboard or a mini tramp, and then over rotate in their front somersault into like a front support, and they can cushion their landing. That means that you're getting used to the feeling of over rotation, because some athletes don't know what an over rotation is. And that means that when they're trying to step out without this kind of drill, they're stepping out too early, and they end up with their legs the wrong way around. So the front leg ends up straight, the back leg ends up bent, and you're asking for a knee problem. So you need to understand what that over rotation feels like. You need to be able to understand where you're spotting the floor, and all of those come with an over rotation drill. So I will definitely be doing that. And then what you want to be thinking about after that is, how do I step out of this? Well, if you over rotate, you know where your back leg should be, right? Because you step back almost to step forward for me. You want your hips underneath your body as you over rotate, so that you're in a position then to almost hit your lunge, which will be back leg first, front leg forward. All right. And so that would be the way that I would build up my punch front step out. And then, just as a caveat for that, do not go straight into a round off out of your punch front. If you nail your punch front, amazing, but don't go straight into a round off. For me, make sure that you go straight into a front walkover first, so that you're always reaching out of the punch front. Otherwise, athletes can have the habit of dropping their arms away from their ears and suffocating their round off. Whereas with the front walkover, you know you have to reach, and that's the mindset you want to have when you're adding the round off as well. All right. So punch front step out. Once you've got that, front walkover first, then go into the round off. All right. And then the last one, I had a message pop up on Instagram, so I'm going to talk about that too. But the last one that I actually planned for was how to make sure you're getting straight legs in your back walkover. So with the back walkover, it's one of those skills where athletes learn it first, or they're learning it around their handstand and whatever. So again, there's the lack of confidence, there's the lack of familiarity and whatever. So it's kind of like building the culture within the athlete. But to make sure that you've got straight legs in a back walkover, it is really important that you approach the skill with good form first. Now, what that means is, if you're going to do a back walkover, you can't be one of those kids who are starting with their hands low and then they're throwing their head back. That's just not going to help anyone, and it's not going to make you progress either. So when you're starting a back walkover, it's really important that your arms are pinned to your ears, nice and tight, and they don't move, nor should they. right? You've got your, I don't like it when athletes step back. I prefer an athlete to tap. That's just a personal preference. But you've got your foot tapped in front of you, arms pinned to your ears, right? Now, that's the form. That's how you should be when you're standing, eyes pinned forward, etc. You should also be flexible, right? Like if you're doing a back walkover, you should have some level of split going on or are working towards one, because otherwise, as soon as you try to lift your leg to perform the back walkover, one of your legs are going to bend because you're so unflexible. And so you're going to have that bent leg issue. So it's important that alongside working your form and drills, etc., that you are also working to make sure that you have good flexibility in your shoulders, not your lower back. All right. So side step, bridge. When you do your bridge, don't look at the floor, look at the ceiling. That will open up your shoulders, not your lower back. But you should be working flexibility in your shoulders, and you should also be working flexibility in your hamstrings, right? So they would be the things that I will be making sure you should be doing from a flexibility point of view. From a strength point of view, make sure you can hold your own weight. Otherwise, you have no right doing a back walkover. When you start performing the skill, this might be with drills or with a spot. As soon as you set and you move back, and you're starting to drop back into that bridge position, your arms and your foot should be moving at the same time. All right. It shouldn't be arms back, then leg follows. It should be, if this is my tap leg here, they should move together into the back walkover. That way, you have a much smoother skill. If you're hitting the floor and your leg is still working its way up, you're going to bend your leg because you're going to have to try and fake over. Whereas you want it to be much more graceful. So as soon as your arms move, your foot should be moving as well. All right. And then the last one for this with the back walkover, you lift with your knee. Sorry, if you lift with your knee, you're going to bend your leg. All right. So if you're lifting with your knee, your leg's going to bend. All right. What you want to be doing is lifting with your toe. And if you lift with your toe, you're more likely to point your toe, squeeze the calf, which squeezes the quads, which squeezes the bottom, right? And so that means that you've got a nice straight leg, which will look prettier when you perform your back walkover. All right. So that's my 2 cents on the straight legs in a walkover. So we've talked about going backwards. We've talked about getting the feet together when tumbling, nailing a punch front step out. And we've also talked about straight legs in a front walkover. One last question I got that came up on social media was shout out for hurdle steps, right? Hurdle steps. So we're talking probably level 0 here, getting kids to understand what leg they should be working with, etc. For me, I do like a little push in the back of an athlete and see which leg they choose to step forward. And generally, that's the one that I get them to use for their lunges. You could also do it to save yourself some hassle with the cartwheel drills. So you can get them to do like a bunny hop over a block, and whichever direction they put their hands down would be the leg that I teach them to lunge with, right? So it's just a bunny hop. So they just hop over like a bench or something, and they have to kind of put their hands down so they can face the way that they came from. And whichever way they rotate their hips would be the leg that I make them step to. So hands down pointing to the left would be a left leg lunger. Hands down to the right would be a right leg lunger. So there's 2 ways that you can work out how, which leg someone should be lunging with. And then in terms of the teaching the hurdle step, which is a nightmare, it's rough. I tend to get people to hop around for a bit with their leg in the air, hop, 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 step into a lunge. And so you can start building what that should feel like. And then I go back a step and I get them to do swing jumps or hop jumps, whatever, feet together. And then gradually I get them to try and land in like a lib position, but we call it passe. And then we try to go swing into the passe and then let them lunge afterwards. But that's just generally how I would build up a hurdle step as well. All right. I think that's everything. And I don't think there's anything else I needed to say, but I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for that. And like I said, like, subscribe, get into the newsletter as well. And if you watch this video back and you're like, oh, I didn't really get that bit, can you explain it again? Or I've got some questions, could you answer this for me? Drop me a comment and I'll either respond to you directly on here or I'll use them for my next Tumble Tune-Up. I'm going to try and get these going maybe every couple of weeks. So I think it would be good to do that. So once again, appreciate you guys watching. Thank you. And I will see you in the next video.